Yeah.
Thank you for meeting us.
Oh, sure.
I wanted you to tell me what the overarching message you wanted to communicate to the audiences through the 4 women's stories, and then linked to that, what connects all those characters for you?
There was not an overarching message, I have to say. There really wasn't. And I would say maybe, hopefully, ambiguity connects them. I don't know. The connections are, well, you know, when you're making a film, you're working so hard not to hammer anything home, or I am, and not to sum it up. So I hate to do that for you now. I mean, well, we could talk about the most obvious things that are location, I guess, but that's the most surface one. The sounds of the trains, that connects them, but that gets back to location. It's very windy where they are. How's that?
When you were deciding on it, what came first? The story, the characters, or the location? I know the story was based on stories.
Yeah, stories from 2 short story collections by Miley Malloy. And the middle story, I really loved the characters in her stories and the way they were so... She's from Montana, and the stories all seem to take place there, and the characters seem very tied into their environment. So that was... and I knew, you know, I would do the rancher story. But I wanted to build off that, and I knew I wanted to do the first story. It was really a search to see if there was a reason to tie them together, and it was really the middle story for me that brought things together and made it work as a whole.
Were you ever tempted to just pick one story and expand on it rather than have 3 different stories? I mean, what did you have, and which one of the 3 would you have picked?
Well,
and, I mean, I know which one is my favorite, but I'll let you.
Oh, everyone has the favorite. Well, I mean, I could have made, and I shot enough film to make a feature of Lily out there feeding the horses, but that people seem to get tired of watching horse feeding after a while.
Never.
But no, me neither. Believe me, I really could make that film. But every time I was showing a rough cut, people would be like, less horses. But and there's a point where it just becomes like the beauty of the place overwhelms the roughness of the chores, and so it kind of cancels it. So you kind of have to hold back anyway. Otherwise, it's just like, what is it about? So you know, it's a balance between not sort of letting the sort of majesty of Montana take over. That it's brutal, it's cold, and taking care of 20 horses alone in that weather is can be isolating and backbreaking and all those things. So there wasn't really a story to expand to the length of there were different things I wanted to do with each one, and I liked the idea of trying to figure out if I could make it work as a whole, as a sort of ideas of the West, and playing with sort of contemporary times, and you know, but with little bits of threads of old Western, not exactly genre, but ideas of to come through, and I think that I understand that the last story is like the heartwarming one, but I think the emotion in the rancher story is where I don't want to just do an emotional so you know, I wanted to do have these women work off each other, and yeah, so I thought that was sort of more interesting.
Is your next project an adaptation of Patrick DeWitt?
No, I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Okay, fair enough. Okay, but as regarding this and with your adaptations, how does it differ working for an adaptation as opposed to working for original material?
Sorry, what was the differ than that? Well, with before I worked in the last 4 movies with Jonathan Raymond, the writer, and Well, each one of those experiences was different, but and they all most of those stories started with either they, aside from Meek's Cutoff, which was a script first by John, I was working off his short stories. So just that we're so close and we're good friends, it was much more, involved a lot of coffees and hanging out. And, this was a much more isolated process because I was doing it on my own. There was no one to sort of like go hammer out the problems with. But though, whatever, friends read drafts and helped me. But it was just more isolated, I guess.
There's been some comparisons made between your films and Jarmusch and Altman and all those films that have interconnecting characters. Who were you inspired by when you were growing up or studying film? Who were your
Well, I grew up in Miami, which was a complete cultural void, and I didn't see movies until I left and went to Boston. I mean, oddly, well, I'm influenced by, Altman is like I love Altman. Funny enough, I don't really love shortcuts. But I do love Altman, and to have Renee play Albert in the movie was like a huge kick for me. And Jarmusch, when I Stranger Than Paradise came out, when I first, got to Boston and was watching films and shooting Super 8, and I think at that time, Stranger Than Paradise, for a lot of people, at my age I was at the time, was really like licensed to make a movie, and I think that's the effect that film had on a lot of people. But as far as like a combining of stories together, those aren't the connections I would go to for this. Honestly, I didn't really. I was like, there aren't a lot of good connections of a triptych working, and I remember writing that to Patrick DeWitt actually, and he wrote me back, yeah, triptych's a really horrible idea. And I was like, okay, well, but I just kept working on it, and
Do you think go ahead.
I was just going to say, as you edit it as well as direct, and you wrote it, and congratulations on keeping to that short time.
Yeah, thanks.
Most directors who are producers or anything else, make it 3 hours, especially when they star in it. Or 2.5 hours, so you did very well. But is there anyone that you go to for advice? Because otherwise you're kind of all alone. I am in a community of filmmakers. Larry Fessenden and Todd Haynes, who are both filmmakers, have been executive producers on most of my films, and they'll watch a cut and give notes, or as I will for them, and they don't with each other, but I will read their scripts and they will read my scripts, and could you have further opinions than Larry Fessenden, or aesthetics than Todd Haynes and Larry Fessenden? Those are the, but actually they're both give really good, because whatever, we've been talking about film together for 20 years now. So, and also the director Phil Morrison will look at a cut. He won't read a script, but he'll look at a cut. And he made Junebug. And did Junebug come out here?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, I have seen
North
it.
Carolina film. But so there are places to go. John Raymond too. And then I had some screenings. I had my in this way, and there's some painter friends I have out in Oregon where I edit, and some other video artists, whatever, just people that I think are smart writers. John will look at a cut. John Raymond. I've got people. No, just people that friends, the different kinds of artists that we've all been sharing our work with us for a really long time now, and so kind of know what each other are going for. It is. It's lovely. Yeah, it's great to have a community. Yeah.
You had a very long hiatus between River of Grass and Old Joy.
Call it a hiatus. I was so tired. I was so tired.
I mean, you did make. I think you made a couple of shorts in between. What made you sort of take so long to make another feature?
It wasn't for a lack of trying. I just couldn't get a film made. Yeah. So.
There's a line where Laura Dern says.
Oh yes. Oh,
you know, we get asked this a lot.
Yes.
It would be lovely to think if I were a man, I would explain things and people would be okay with it.
I knew that. I shouldn't have put that line in there.
Sorry,
it's too on the nose because I get asked about it.
Is there any personal resonance in the industry?
No, sure, of course.
Yes.
But not to. It's she's sort of. I mean, the reason I kept that line is because she says, it would be so restful if I were a man. It would be so restful.
Right,
And I think it was Miley's. I'm pretty sure that's in the book. And I just think it's I just liked the expression of that. It would be so restful, yes.
How do you make a film around silence? Because the film is so much about what is left unsaid, and then it means that once Lily Gladstone has that look, Kristen Stewart near the end, it just devastates, even though they've only discussed it just exists.
I take up arms by the word silence. There's a lot of sound design going on. It's just quite
but it's the emotional science of the
it's not dialogue and it's not score, but it's there's sort of the sound design's built by some of the things that give you an idea of distance, like the train, the Livingston, the town is where there's a big train depot there, so you're going to have trains in your soundtrack whether you want, if you're recording any sound there. So that's built in early on, and that's been done. I just using trains somewhat like you would use score, and also helps give the idea of the distance from the rancher, and as does the radio, and that she's kind of out of range. It's also a really incredibly windy place, Livingston, and so the wind makes really radically different sounds depending, like if you're in a barn or you're in an open place, you're in an alleyway. And so the sound design's built on sort of, and then it's near highway, so you have like highway traffic of the trucks and stuff. So it's there's a sound design going on. Winter birds. There's lots of sounds. There's no silence. But it is not. Dialogue's just one tool in the toolkit of all the possibilities of sound, I guess. So, you could get stuff up. The idea is you can, the frame, or how you move someone through a frame, or a cut, or just some kind of extended moment. There's lots of different ways to get something across besides someone coming out and saying, if I were a man, it would be so restful.
the solo at the end over the credits is lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Lovely.
That's Smokey Hormel, who's
was it written especially for the film?
It was.
Oh,
and he's a fabulous guitar player who's probably on many records you have that you wouldn't, like from Johnny Cash to Beck to, I don't know, he plays on a million things, but he's he composed that for the movie. Thank you, I'll tell him.
Can you also just say a quick, sorry, just one quick thing about Michelle Williams and your relationship, your working relationship with her? Can you just say just a little bit about that?
Michelle, what can I say about Michelle that I've never said before? That would be hard. It's just a pleasure working with Michelle. It's like we shot that part with her after the ranch and before, and there was a little bit of a let up in the weather, so it wasn't quite so freezing. It was actually quite mild. So that part of the film is really we were so happy to be inside at that point. I can't even tell you. We were so cold. So, and then just working with Michelle was just, there weren't a bunch of wild horses, but Michelle and I, just because we've worked together before, it's very easy to, she's just easy to work with because we have sort of a shortcut of, we don't have to sort of dance around anything and not try to hurt each other or whatever, like you do when you're just starting to work with someone and you're trying to feel your way. You can just cut to the chase with Michelle, and which is awesome.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's brilliant.